Jai Jai Shri Radhe. So Vaishnav Ko Jai Shri Krishna. Today is day 65 of the readings in English of the stories of the 252 Vaishnav disciples of Sri Gosaiji. Aaj Ke Anand Ki Jai. We are reading at the moment Varta 43, the story of the moneylender's daughter-in-law. And we start from where we finished yesterday, Bhav Prakash. Why? Because he had cast aspersions upon an innocent Vaishnava and thus offended him. Therefore he had to be reborn as a non-believer of bad habits. One should not regard Vaishnavas with a worldly opinion, otherwise birth in a low type of womb becomes unavoidable. This is the principle given here. When his wife died, she was reborn, as this lady sitting here now. This is the tale of their previous births. One day that Muslim caught sight of her, and he had the holy sight of Sri Govardhanaji in her eyes. He began to long for this holy sight of the Lord, and he found in her eyes. He would gaze at her continuously, and always saw the Lord in her eyes. He never looked at her with any worldly lusty intention. If he had a corrupted mind, then how would he recognize her like this? The Muslim did recognize the girl, but she did not recognize him. His only offence to you was that he daily came to look at her, but you left your whole house behind because of him and came here. In this way, Sri Gosaiji explained everything to the moneylender. He continued, and when he saw me, he recognized me and saw me just as Sri Swaminiji does in the eternal Leela. When I went inside, therefore, he felt such pain of separation that he fainted. That is when he left his body. Now that Muslim has gained entrance to the eternal realm just through my glance, thus he has nothing left to do. Your daughter-in-law has not yet gained such knowledge and so is still stuck here. Her mind is still fixed on worldly relationships and bodily contacts, etc. In this way she is proud. Bhav Prakash. A big question arises here. She was such an accomplished Vaishnava in whose eyes Sri Govardhanaji's form shines. Even so, to this day she had not gained the knowledge of her true form. The Muslim remembered his true form the moment he saw her. The reason for this is that the daughter-in-law had love for Sri Govardhanaji through the grace of Sri Gosaiji, and she meditates on Sri Govardhanaji. Therefore, he sits in her eyes and shines. However, she still had not gained the spiritual knowledge to recognize the non-material form of anybody because she had not kept company with Vaishnavas. Without contact with Vaishnavas, this type of knowledge is hard to attain. She had a worldly pride in her physical form, and so did not realize her spiritual form. The Muslim, on the other hand, gained humility. Therefore, with the grace of Sri Gosaiji, he immediately attained the eternal realm. Vaishnavas must always be humble and always be cautious to not be locked in their body consciousness. It is important to associate with Vaishnavas all the time. Part 1 continued. When her bodily pride is broken, she will regain that wife's Leela form again. Close to her husband at the time of Sri Krishna's direct manifestation, these two were brother and sister. In this way, Sri Gosaiji blessed all those souls by revealing the stories of their previous lifetimes and their lives now. The moneylender's wife was struck with burning separation and she left her body within a couple of hours. His son's wife also attained the eternal Leela. The Vaishnavas there performed her last rites. Sri Gosaiji told them that the state of impurity normally arising from the death of a relative did not apply here because they had both been most highly accomplished Vaishnavas. They have attained the Lord's sweetest pastimes. There is nothing left for them to complete. As he said this, his heart filled with emotion. Bhav Prakash. In the eternal Leela, both of them belong to Sri Chandravaliji's group of Sakhis. The daughter-in-law's name was Kama, who is a form of Bhadra, manifested from her, and of Rajasi disposition. The Muslim's name in the Leela is Kam Aturi. Both of them were fully engaged in serving the Lord. They looked after the beloved's forest boughs, etc. They had similar natures and both helped Sri Chandravaliji. Thus concludes Varta 33, the story of the moneylender's daughter-in-law and the Muslim, who were the recipients of Sri Gosaiji's great grace and accomplished Vaishnavas. Sri Gosaiji was always pleased with them. He blessed them with the complete explanation of their births. There is really no way to reach the end of their tale. Varta 44, the story of Shamdas and Ajnab Kunbi from Gujarat. In the eternal Leela, his name is Prema Kali, who manifests from Bhadra and is thus a form of her divine loving mood. Part 1. Once Sri Gosaiji set out for the holy site of Sri Ranachoralaji in Dwarka. He reached his destination, had the holy site of Sri Ranachoralaji, and then returned, passing through Gujarat. On the way they came to one village. There lived Shamdas and Kunnabi. He caught sight of Sri Gosaiji and straightway had the desire to become his disciple. He requested Sri Gosaiji to accept him as his disciple. He instructed him to go and bathe, which he did, and when he came back, he bowed low to Sri Gosaiji, who initiated him with the Lord's name and Brahma Sambandh. Sri Gosaiji cooked and made the offerings to the Lord, and when the time came to accept back the prasad, he invited Shamdas to partake of prasad there. He gave Shamdas his plate from which he had eaten, and he partook of prasad, Mahaprasad. Sri Gosaiji then took rest. The next day Sri Gosaiji left that place and went back to Dwarkaji to again have the holy sight of Sri Ranchodlaji, taking Shamdas with him. Sri Gosaiji returned to Gokul, but Shamdas went back to Gujarat. Once one lady asked Shamdas, "Of which caste are you?" He replied, "I have no idea. My parents died when I was yet a child, and so I do not know. Anyway, what have I got to do with my parents? Sri Gosaiji is everything to me. It is he who has enlightened me as to the form of Sri Govardhanaji, and he in whom I take shelter. He has uplifted me, so what do I have to do with my caste?" The lady laughed and said, "Wow, what unshakable faith. He really has nothing to do with the world." After that, she never questioned him again. Shamdas lived there for quite some time and then went to Gokul to have the holy sight of Sri Gosaiji. He had the holy sight of Sri Navneet Priyaji at the Rajbhog Aarti. When Sri Gosaiji had completed all the morning seva, he came back to sit in his betak. Shamdas went there and bowed to his guru. Sri Gosaiji asked him when he had arrived, and he replied that he had only just come. Sri Gosaiji left to partake of prasad. When he returned, he invited Shamdas to also partake of prasad. Shamdas bathed before going to do so. Sri Gosaiji fed him with his own hands before going inside to have a rest. Shamdas sat and massaged his guru's feet until he awoke. It was time for the afternoon utap and seva. Sri Gosaiji bathed and completed all the evening seva from the offerings to the aarti. Then he returned to his betak. Shamdas was delighted to be able to see and sit with him. Sri Gosaiji stayed there for some days before going to Srinatadwara or Jetipura. Shamdas accompanied him there. After arriving, Sri Gosaiji bathed and entered the temple, where it was time to accept the lunchtime offerings back as prasad. When Shamdas had the holy sight of Sri Govardhanaji at the Rajbhog Aarti, he was extremely happy. He praised his good fortune that with Sri Gosaiji's grace he had been able to have this vision of the Lord. When the Lord had settled down to take rest, Sri Gosaiji came down from Sri Giriraji and sat in his betak. Shamdas came with him. Sri Gosaiji asked of him, O Shamdas, did you see Sri Govardhanaji?" Shamdas prostrated before Sri Gosaiji and said, "O great Maharaj, you are an ocean of compassion. It is only by your grace that a sinful fool like me should be able to enjoy the holy sight of the Lord." Sri Gosaiji appreciated Shamdas's simple character. Shamdas got the idea to tour around the land of Vraj, and he asked Sri Gosaiji's permission to do so. So we continue tomorrow at this point with the story of Shamdas. So Jai Shri Radhe, Jai Shri Krishna, Shri Vallabhadisha ki Jai. Take care. Jai Jai Shri Radhe. Radhe Radhe.